But I don't think it's just going to be chaotic because people don't believe in God. I think if you just look at people who don't believe in God now and see, are they committing crimes at some higher rate than everyone else? Are they doing bad things higher than anyone else? And that's not the case.
But a lot of philanthropic work that has been done is done through religious organizations.
You're right, and you know what? I actually agree with you on that point. I think in terms of charity work and volunteer work, religious groups do it a lot more and a lot better than we do. One of the amazing things one of the things I try to do with the Secular Student Alliance, and we do as a group, is we try to push our affiliate groups to do more service projects because we want them to raise money for charity. We want them to do more volunteer work. One of our affiliates at the University of Illinois this year, over spring break, they actually joined up with the Campus for Christ group on campus, and together they went to New Orleans to help fix up houses and plant trees and do stuff for Katrina victims. We don't do it. You're right. Christians and people of faith do that on a much bigger scale and much better than we do right now. But we're working on that. We're going to do that. We're getting better at it. But again, I think part of that has to do with how much money they're taking in, how many resources they have, how many more people are religious. I mean, that plays a big part in it. Not because I don't think they're better people than we are, but they also have more resources in general. Yeah.
I think a comment on that is I think it's more people of community
Right.
are allowed to do that kind of thing. The catalyst to the community is relatively unimportant.
Yeah. It's very important to have that community and have other people you could do this with. I mean, the activity that particular campus group did, it worked really well because they have a group of 30, 40, 50 people in their group. They could bring together 12 people to go to New Orleans. It's not as easy to do if there's 5 or 10 people on your campus.
If I can add to that, having some experience in this area, it also helps when you can get charity status at the drop of a hat for being religious, whereas humanist group really can't.
Yeah.
That's a big part of raising funds.
Yeah, it helps to have that tax exempt status and people can donate. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
subsidies on all of your property, that sort of thing.
Right.
There's a question on this side of the room. Actually, said
Oh, yeah, I was wondering, for the auction, were all of you find that you got majority Christians involved?
Yeah, I was kind of sad to see that a lot of non-Christian faiths did not bid on the auction, and the only reason I know that is because when they emailed me, they would be Christians that were emailing, and based on their screen name, you could kind of take a guess as to what faith they were. I think it was just about all Christian, or some denomination of Christianity, and I knew some of them were atheists, but no one else really did.
Do you have any idea why that is? What were your thoughts?
I don't know, I think Christians are much, at least in that sense, they were much more intrigued by the opportunity to have an atheist go to their particular church or their denomination of church, whereas, say, a Muslim person wouldn't really care about that as much, or at least in that sort of way. I think this was at least, I'll say, gimmicky enough that Christians really like the idea. And that's the sort of thing, because a lot of Christians, when I saw other websites talking about it, they were saying, here's a chance to save an atheist.
Yeah.
You don't see that type of talk with other faiths as much as I do with Christians. I don't know if that's the reason, but that's what I thought of initially.
there's a gentleman.
I understand that it's bad to be militant atheist or very absolute whatever, but like, why? Okay. Now that we're not a militant atheist, why do we go the extra step to be a friendly atheist? I mean, should we become like the Mormons and the Scientologists, where we're just gleeful and happy all the time? Like, I really don't think that's in the best interest
right.
of people.
And I'm not saying the militant, quote-unquote, atheists need to stop doing what they're doing. Like, again, like I said, I think P.Z. Meyer is the best blogger there is. I want him to keep doing what he's doing. I want Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Chris Hitchens to keep writing what they're writing. I think people need that. People need to be jolted out of their system every once in a while. I don't think that's going to be as effective to reach the people who are on the borderline. That might shake some people out of their system, but I think the better way to do it, not necessarily be friendly, but do it in a way that's not insulting to them.
But I mean, in terms of, say, the internal CFI community, like, should we just like go out of our ways and be friendly? I'm not saying
Depends what you mean. I mean, I think hosting programs, having these community centers that CFI does across North America, around the world, those are great starts. Inviting religious people to these conferences, maybe, to like hear what some of our speakers have to say, that's a good start. And again, the types of things I'm talking about are kind of just the things that insult everyone who's religious just on that fact alone. you see a lot of people saying, you know, if they're religious, they're stupid. Or here's a correlation. Look, atheists have higher IQs. Must mean religious people are dumb. Like, it's that sort of stuff. When you see that, there's so much nuance to that. That's the sort of thing. I mean, just point out those nuances and be willing to talk to the religious people. I mean, there's one person online who just has derogatory terms for anyone who's slightly religious or has any thought that there might be God. That's the sort of thing that's not going to be effective. Just one thing to add, Brian Sapien, who runs the Rational Response Squad, or one of the Rational Response Squad people, the way he put it to me was like he might be the bitter pill religious people have to swallow, and a person like me is like the water they take down to go with it to help them swallow it. So you need someone to do it, but you need someone to kind of help them and guide them along the way. I don't know if the militant people are kind of taking their hands and letting them know about atheism. They're just kind of putting it out there and hoping people follow.
So there's a question in the back.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment on, you said that doing charity and we're, as atheists, not doing enough charity. On the other hand, I have a problem with religious groups doing charity, because most of the time charity is done, so, you know, I give you a piece of bread for starting, so you can then read my Bible and convert.
But
you know. So, you know, I don't think that this is a very good motivation.
Right, a lot of
I don't think
missionary
I can do
work
that
that,
either.
yeah, there's a lot of missionary work that says, you know, we'll build a church or something instead of something else. But I think a lot of Christians that I've talked to have just as big of a problem with that type of mission trip as we do. They get offended by that. And I think there's a lot of Christian groups out there that are saying, we're going to do this mission work, we're going to go to this other place, but we're actually there to give them food and to help them build like real shelters. And, you know, their mindset is we're doing this because we're Christians and that's our duty, to help other people, not to convert them. And I think there are a lot of people out there that do it for the right reasons, or are not necessarily the right reasons, but they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. I have the same problem with those types of missionaries that are like the bribing type, like do it and then convert or something. But I think there's a lot of Christian work that goes out there that's not.
Since atheism is by definition a negative, what hope do you think there is of rallying people behind this negative notion?
My personal thought is I don't really care if they're atheists or not. My question is, where are their principles coming from? What are they guided by? I want to see them less guided by the Bible or less guided by this belief in a higher being. I want to take them off of that.
But the problem that usually comes up in that case is a loss of community, which you cannot replace after that.
And that's another thing. I think if atheists, or if we want to get, secular humanism out there, offer things that the church offers that are not religious. Like you're saying, like that community. Like, if I lost my job, who's going to help me right now? If I don't have a family to go to or something, churches will house you, they will feed you, they will take care of you if you need that help. If something's wrong with your child, the church community will help you. Most atheists don't have a system like that in place. You're right, we need to get that community in order. But again, that's something that we can work on. That's something we can do better at, helping create those communities around the country, around the world. And once we get that in place, it's going to be a lot easier to tell someone, look, there's an alternative option for you that doesn't require this belief in God that's irrational. Look, we have a community for you. We have people who will take care of you. That also requires people to reach out to other people, and that's kind of hard. Like the saying goes, it's trying to get atheists to do something together is like herding cats. It's hard to get people to do that sort of a thing, but that's something we got to get back.